Today I'm making two Filipino favorites, chicken adobo, which is a delicious braised dish, and lumpia, tiny deep-fried egg rolls that are totally addicting. What's happening, guys? It's Jet Tila here, and this is Ready Jet Cook, where I show you how to make some of my favorite Asian dishes from pantry to plate. Let's get started. All right, cane vinegar, water chestnuts. So Filipino food is delicious, but Filipino chefs are masters at vinegar. So this is sugarcane vinegar. So they crush the sugarcane, make juice from it, and then ferment it into vinegar. So you're gonna have these like floral notes to it. It's gonna have these sugarcane notes. This really is a fun vinegar if you've never played with it. Now, water chestnuts have kind of gotten a bad name over the years. People are using it to kind of just for filler. I mean, let's celebrate the water chestnut. It is crunchy, it is sweet. It is such an underrated ingredient, and I'm gonna show you how to make it a star. So the last thing I need are these lumpia wrappers. Now they might look like egg roll wrappers, but they're actually thinner and they're more like a pastry skin than a noodle sheet. In essence, what an egg roll wrapper is. They fry up super light and crispy, and if you can get them at the Asian store, they'll be in the freezer section or the deli section. So to get started with the adobo, I'm using legs and thighs because I just like dark meat. I think they're a little more tender, there's more flavor, but if you want to use breast, just use whole chicken breast. So I need to start by marinating these chicken thighs. But before that, I do want to trim off any excess fat or skin that I don't need. So what I usually do is I'll kind of just examine both sides to see if I have a lot of skin that comes off kind of where it connects to the chicken. This is kind of what I'm talking about right here. On the underside of the chicken thighs, if you see these little flaps of skin and fat, I just trim them off. Do not throw these away, by the way. I basically collect them all and I'll slowly render and fry them to kind of make my own little popcorn chicken. I kind of call that the chef's privilege. No one wants it. I absolutely want it, and I'll snack on them kind of through service. That's nice and clean. I can see a little flap there. I'm gonna trim that. Yeah, this one's got a lot of fat and skin on it, and I'm really trimming because that's just gonna give me kind of excess fat that I don't need in the final adobo, but that's gonna be super delicious deep fried. So this is gonna be our marinade vessel. I really like these shallow rectangular glass vessels because in a bowl you get way too much marinade, so you're wasting a lot of ingredients. This is gonna give me the perfect amount of marinade just to cover the chicken. All right, so I'm switching over to soy sauce, so it's time to wash my hands. So this can disappear and we can focus on just the leg thighs. The marinade is really simple. I'm starting with 6 cloves of garlic, but to get the flavor of the garlic, I do want to break them up a little bit. And I'm just gonna basically take flat part of my knife and just lean until I hear a snap. Listen, perfect. I'm not trying to break this up into a ton of pieces. I just want them to expose all their flavor. And that's it right there. We're gonna use this marinade again in the actual making of the adobo when we take it to the braise. Next, it's just soy sauce. I'm using regular old soy sauce here. I wanna get enough to actually cover the chicken, so don't be scared if you have to remove the little kind of spout there. This does a few things. We're gonna get a lot of flavor into these leg thighs before we actually sear them off and braise them. All right, I wanna make sure I've got garlic kind of swimming. I wanna make sure I have enough soy sauce to get the marinade going. So I'm simply just gonna cover these tightly with a little plastic wrap and let them hang out in the fridge for about 30 minutes. So my adventure into Filipino food is a fun one. So, we had the first Thai grocery store in America, started in the 70s, but the neighborhood started shifting in the 90s. Our little Thai grocery store started to shift into a Filipino grocery store. The neighborhood shifted, we had to really convert from a Thai market to a Filipino market, and we had this phenomenal group of caterers. You know, I called them my aunties, my Filipino aunties. What they did over the course of a decade was give me kind of personal one-on-one food coaching. I started to learn all these new Filipino ingredients. Instead of calling it fish sauce, I called it patis. Instead of Thai shrimp paste, I started to learn bagoong. And then I needed to learn pastry skins and lumpia and adobo. It was really fun kind of spending that decade hanging out with my Filipino aunties and learning Filipino food. So as you can see, the soy sauce has really penetrated the skin and the actual chicken. The garlic is married in nicely. The next thing we have to do is actually get these frying. The enemy of frying is moisture. So what I want to do is pat these dry while I get this pan really hot. So anytime you're working with raw proteins, paper towels are my best friends because the marinade has done its job. The soy sauce is inside the chicken, so I want to try to get the exterior as dry as possible. You know, adobo is like so many dishes from around the world that was really created through necessity. You know, in the Philippines, like a lot of Southeast Asia, weather's really hot. So the way to preserve anything usually is either salting, drying, or pickling. And the use of vinegar in this dish actually kind of raises the pH and allows you to hold this chicken dish for a lot longer. So it really was a preservation method turned into something very delicious. So I've got a braising pan, which in my opinion is something that holds heat very well, has a decent coating on the bottom where I can really kind of let this start to simmer without it sticking to anything. I'm just gonna use high temperature, low flavor oil, peanut, canola, grapeseed, any of those work great. And I want to start by rendering the fat out of these and getting a nice browning. And I'm being very deliberate about getting this as dry as possible. I actually like to start with the skin side down. Use the sides of the pan so you get heat from two sides. So you want to tuck up those chicken thighs as tight to the pan as possible. And another good tip, anytime you're stovetop frying, is if you feel you're getting a lot of splash of oil, you can use a paper towel and tongs to kind of dab out the excess. All right, I'm gonna let that brown up really well as I tidy up a bit. I want to reserve these garlic cloves because they're going to end up going back into the adobo. So my job right now is to just be thoughtful about getting these brown and not overcooking them. I would leave them alone for probably the first 2 or 3 minutes just so the skin can sear. At that point it's going to be a little sticky, and then after it sears and cauterizes, it's going to lift up really nicely on its own. That's what I'm talking about right there. Wow, the soy sauce really helps the caramelization of this chicken. That one's ready to go. I mean, you don't want to rush this. Let that browning occur because browning means flavor all the way around. And again, use the little paper towel trick if you're getting too much splatter. Because you really just need enough oil to sear the skins and no more. I want to get as much of the surface area brown as possible because I'm prepping these skins to braise, meaning I'm going to introduce a lot of liquid in there. So the tighter and the crispier the skin is now, it's going to hold through that long process of moist cooking. It's time for aromatics. So these are fresh bay leaves out of my garden. If you don't have fresh, you could use dry. So let's get those in there crackling. You hear that? That bay leaf is talking to me, telling me it's happy. I want some peppercorns in there. And my real simple technique is just to get a pan and crack them open. You hear that? Just a little loosening to get all those essential oils out. I'm gonna add those to the pan. And what I'm doing is blooming those herbs and spices in there to really maximize their flavor. I've got both sides of the chicken brown. We're gonna pour in our reserve marinade with those garlic cloves. And to accomplish a braise, I need a liquid medium. And my liquid medium here is going to be chicken stock. A braise is a very specific method of cooking. It means you don't want that liquid to go further than about halfway up. You want to leave some of the chicken exposed. So what I need to do now is cover this tightly and let it simmer for about 40 minutes. And that's going to allow the chicken to really tighten up and marry all those delicious flavors in there. All right, it's time to work on the lumpia. And all that really means is bringing together a lot of vegetables, herbs, and protein to make a delicious filling. I'm gonna start by opening the can of water chestnuts. I only need 4 ounces. This is an 8-ounce can, so I'm gonna drain out the water. For these lumpia, I'm gonna try to process these ingredients down into almost a smooth paste. Water chestnut's done. I'm just gonna go through all these various vegetables pretty quickly because the machine's gonna handle the rest. So scallions in half lengthwise. Now I'm just gonna cut them into smalls. Next, we're gonna do onion. I only need 1/4 of an onion, so I'm gonna take 1/4 peel. I'm just gonna cut it into a small dice so the food processor can take it even finer. Same thing, mushrooms. With these shiitake mushrooms, I'm just gonna take the stems out and just use the caps. And I'll gather them, give them a 1/4 churn, and then fine dice them. I know it feels like a lot of work, but it really is worth it to get a very smooth lumpia farce or filling. Garlic, just gonna give it a smash, and then just a mincing pass. And to round out the herbs and vegetables, just a little bit of shrimp and some ground pork. So looking at my ingredients, I think the shrimp, because of their shape and size, are gonna take a little effort, so I'm gonna put them in first. I wanna do it in pulses because any of the large pieces, during that pause in the pulse, it drops down to get chopped. So the shrimp is tiny, but not to where it's paste yet. That's good for me. I'm gonna dump that into the bowl. And I'm processing kind of in reverse order. Whatever takes more effort goes in first. And no need to clean the bowl in between because it's all gonna end up together anyway. I'm gonna add all the vegetables and herbs now. And if you have a very large food processor that will accommodate everything, just do it all in one. Let's pulse this up. So to this, I'm actually gonna add some of the pork now because I think I can work those all together. Oh, it'll fit all of it. Perfect. And if I get any pieces that are not getting down to the blade, I'm just gonna give it a little assist with the spoon. Perfect. It's very similar to making a meatball, except we're gonna put that stuffing into an egg roll. I'm gonna get the food processor out of the way and finish seasoning in the bowl on the cutting board. So here's what I'm gonna need for seasoning. Of course, fish sauce, as they would say, patis in Tagalog. Soy sauce. Like all delicious Southeast Asian food, it's kind of the 5 flavor rule. So we want a little sweet with the savory and the salty, the sour and the heat. And then just a pinch of white pepper. So that's it for seasonings. I'm gonna work this together now until all of the ingredients are one and all of the flavors are together. If you're not gonna use the filling immediately to make lumpia, cover this tightly and put it in the fridge, but I'm going right for it. We're gonna start building our lumpias right now. So these are the lumpia wrappers we picked up, and they are kind of moisture sensitive, meaning you don't want them to be opened and just left out in the air too long because they will dry out. So open these very, very close to building your lumpias. And as you can see, they're in a very, very tight cluster. So what I like to do is kind of pull maybe 1/3 or halfway in and then work that way versus trying to peel that perfect layer from the top. So pull that. I'm gonna start with this piece as my first sheet. And for the traditional lumpia, it's 1 sheet per egg roll or per lumpia. Just like that. There we go. So I've got the filling. I've got my wrappers. Now I just need a little medium to kind of glue this all together. An egg is gonna be the perfect medium. So lumpias are really fun to make. Unlike Chinese egg rolls, where you're trying to make this giant log of filling and then roll it over, what I like to do is to make a nice kind of flat paste of filling that go about 1/3 of the way up. Once you've got 1/3 coverage, I'm actually gonna roll over and then pull back and gather the filling, like so. And then I'm just going to tuck and roll, making sure there's no air in this egg roll. And then once I'm at the point where I have about a 2-inch lip, I'm gonna take some of that egg to make a little bit of glue. And then watch what I do. I'm gonna pinch just the ends, grab any excess filling there, and then close it up. And I'm gonna let it rest on that pleat side so it adheres to the roll, and I'm good to go. So the lumpias are made and it's time to fry. So I'm frying always in a high temperature, low flavor oil, peanut, canola, grapeseed, etc. 350 to 365, and I'm gonna lower these in slowly. What I'm looking for is the oil to kind of start that bubbling, and I've got that. And then I'm gonna let it go. Every time you add something cold into the oil, it brings the temperature down. So I would cook these in batches as you go. And the only way to really know your oil temperature is a thermometer. I've always got one handy to check meat temperatures and to check oil frying temperatures. So because these are so thin, they're gonna cook up really quickly. So I'm looking for a golden brown shell, and by the time they get there, I know that the shrimp and the pork are gonna be cooked through. If you're ever in doubt and you wanna make sure your food's safe, just stick the thermometer inside the egg roll, and if you hit 165 degrees, you're perfectly safe. If you're not gonna eat them right away, you can actually freeze them raw. You can actually freeze them cooked as well, and then to bring them back, I just throw the cooked frozen lumpia right into an air fryer for about 8 to 10 minutes, and they are perfect. So they make the perfect snack for my kids. If I'm just jonesing for a crispy lumpia, I like to cook them, hold them frozen after cook, and just pop them in the air fryer or the oven or the toaster oven. So that's what I'm looking for right there. Golden brown, delicious. I'm gonna drain it right onto the rack. All right, so lumpias are done. I'm gonna let them drain on the rack. I'm gonna finish my adobo, and let's put this all together. I mean, look at that. The chickens are braised. You can see it kind of tight off the bone, so I know it's gonna have that nice kind of hole on the mouthfeel. Just to finish, I'm gonna add a few ingredients. Our cane vinegar. Remember, the Filipinos are masters of vinegar. The adobo was originally a way to preserve meat for long periods of time. Next, I'm gonna add a little bit of sugar. And finally, to kind of pull it all together, I'm gonna add a little cornstarch slurry. And all the slurry is equal parts cornstarch and water. And as I mix it, and the cornstarch comes to a simmer and hits that 180-degree mark, this is gonna pull together into a really beautiful, almost sticky sauce, which coats rice beautifully. The flavor that you're chasing is a really nice balance between savoriness with just a hint of acid, which brightens it, and then the sugar underneath really gives it almost like a Chinese 5-spice kind of stew flavor. So let me show you how to put this Filipino feast together. I'm gonna serve the lumpias long on this platter, and I'm gonna show you a very simple sauce that's made up of 2 ingredients. So for the sauce, I love this sweet chili sauce, but I think I want a little more tang in there to really kind of pay that homage to that delicious kind of acidity in the adobo. So I'm gonna back that up with just a little more cane vinegar and stir that together. And for the adobo, I'm gonna do a family style plate and being very gentle to not break up those leg thighs. The bay leaf, the garlic, the peppercorns, you know, they added a lot of flavor. I just want to leave them in. Just make sure to warn your guests, the bay leaves are not to be eaten. They're more decoration now. My favorite part of cooking, tasting. Look at that. It's tender. It's really succulent is the word. And just that hit of acid really rounds out this dish. And of course with the lumpia, that's what I want. Right there, crispy outside, soft, tender on the inside. I mean, this really is the perfect Filipino meal, in my opinion. So there it is, my friends, chicken adobo, these beautiful little lumpia. I hope I've made my tias proud, and I hope I inspired you to make these dishes at home. We'll see you guys next time on Ready, Jet, Cook.